If service is taking action to create value, then let's say you're the HR department and you want to take some better action to create more value for the employees. But I have a question. Is there action that an employee could also take that would create value for the HR department?
Ron Kaufman is the world-leading educator for uplifting services, performance, and building services cultures. He helps leaders, teams, and organizations to serve better, care more, and generate new value in the world of CX and services. Ron is the author of the New York Times best-selling book, Uplifting Services, and 14 other books on services, business, and inspiration. His unique approach to learning and leadership have been featured in the New York Times, in Wall Street Journal, and Harvard Business Review. For the past 4 years, Global Gurus has ranked Ron the #1 guru around the globe in customer services and experience. Ron moved to Asia in the 90s to help Singapore Airlines and the government of Singapore create a launch national services quality training organization. He resides in Singapore. He's talking with us right now from Singapore. And we have 45 minutes to talk with him today. He's going to be talking with us, and later we'll have Q&A, all right? So without further ado, Mr. Ron
Let's get on with it.
Yeah, I will take my camera off, okay? And maybe we three have to take the camera off just to give the emphasis in Ron. Thank you so much, Ron, for coming here, and later we talk.
Thanks, Ricardo, for the invitation. Thanks to everybody for this hour of your time. Really appreciate the privilege of being able to be with you. We're going to move very quickly. I know that's going to be sort of an American pace. You can tell from my tone of voice, from my accent, that I was born in the United States, but I've spent most of my adult life, like more than 3 decades, traveling all over the world. Just to put a little evidence behind that, that's what my passport used to look like, more than 100 flights every year. And then in 2013, I actually became a citizen of Singapore. I've been living here, as Ricardo said, since 1990. All of that travel around the world was to do something that I love and other people have very much enjoyed, which is going out and uplifting and inspiring and educating people to improve customer experience, to uplift their service. Of course, with COVID, I've had to sit down and stay in one particular place, couldn't run around like I have been in the past. So I just want to show you exactly where I am. So if you see me looking off to the side at some point during the evening, you'll know why. I'm actually over here working with all of you, doing virtual events, and have been absolutely enjoying that as well. So this evening, I've put together a little bit of a program for you, show you some things, and I've got some things to be able to give you as we go along with links that'll show up in the chat. Thank you for the invitation to a European customer experience organization. You may say, why is an American guy who moved to Asia and became Singaporean, what's he doing talking to the ECXO? But one of the things you don't know about me is I actually am in part European. That little sad looking fellow over on the left-hand side is my father's father, and he was actually born in Romania. This is his birth certificate that actually proves that in 1892, my grandfather was born in Bacau. So you've got sort of a semi-European right here. Something else you don't know about me is there was a time in life when I actually had hair. I was the captain of the Brown University Ultimate Frisbee team. I then took Frisbee sports to places all over the world. I was always more interested in the festivals and in getting mass numbers of people involved, not so much in the tournaments to just figure out who was the best player. And for that, they put me in the Ultimate Frisbee Hall of Fame as what's called a Johnny Appleseed. In American history, Johnny Appleseed was the fellow who went all around the country spreading seeds of apples, which allowed that particular fruit to flourish. My wife, Jen, is on the call today. She's my number one, right shoulder, left shoulder, co-director, co-founder, and we really have had the privilege and still have the privilege of being able to be together. I met her scuba diving. I've done more than a couple thousand scuba dives over the years, as has she. This is, just one picture from one of our delightful dives together. But within the hobby, I have another hobby, which is that I collect trash. So whenever it is that I'm scuba diving and I'm out under the water and I see something there that is really just not supposed to be there, it got dropped by somebody else who didn't clean up after themselves, or it fell off a boat, I make it a point to actually be the guy who cleans it up. And you'd be amazed at the kind of stuff that you'll find underwater if you're actually out there trying to make sure that the water is cleaner and better and when you leave it. Now, that principle of leave this place better than you found it is really part of the way I live. It's like, I know I'm not going to be here forever. You're not going to be here forever. Being a human being means that you have the privilege of having a certain limited life. And I want to do the best that I can do, not only for myself, but for other people as well. And so I'm putting into the chat right now something for you to click on and watch after today's program. It's a little documentary that was made about this whole idea of leaving this place better than you found it. After working in the field of customer experience and service for 20 years, I wrote this book called Uplifting Service. And there's a reader's guide that's available for this book. So even if you say, I don't want to spend the money and buy Ron's book, just go ahead and get this reader's guide. I'll go ahead and put that link in there as well. It's in the chat and you can download it for free. The benefit of the reader's guide is that it asks critical questions in every single chapter. And if you and your team or you and your clients can answer those questions, you will already be applying what the book is all about. I went into the book recently and I went to the very first page. And this is one of the paragraphs. And it says, I define service as taking action to take care of someone else, or in commercial terms, taking action to create value for someone else. And for more than 20 years, I leveraged that definition. I wrote the definition because very few people could give me a good definition of what the heck they meant by service. So the sentence that I wrote was, service is taking action to create value for someone else. Now, the reason I'm showing you this is that definition, I believe, is now gone out of date. And I'm going to show you how my own thinking has been evolving so that you realize that the field of customer experience is not static. It's not just a set of tools. It's not just a set of best practices. It's always evolving. And now that you're joining ECXO, you folks can help lead the entire European region of the world in this field. So when we say that service is taking action, could be on the phone, could be online, could be face-to-face, could be internal, could be external, to create value, what makes something valuable is when the recipient of the service says, that action contributed to my well-being. Now, well-being can sometimes be calibrated with numbers. You help me save money. You help me make money. You help me get value for money. You help me save time. You gave me a higher level of performance, something I can track. But sometimes the value in the well-being is more emotional. You made me feel understood. You reduced my anxiety. You brought me a sense of happiness and joy. Sometimes the value is more of a sense of connection. You made our family feel more connected to each other. Or I now feel more connected to, the future or the people on your team. And sometimes the well-being and the value is even what I call existential. Like, working with you or being your customer or being your employee or being your partner gives me a better sense of meaning and purpose in my life. Service is taking action to create value that contributes to someone's well-being. Well, some of you may know that the word serve comes from the 9th century when the Mongols conquered the Slavs. And the Slavs were put into servitude. And the words slave and serve came out of that together. Which is why many people say, I don't want to be a service provider. I want to be an esteemed professional. I'm saying, whoa. You have a misunderstanding of what it means to serve. In my definition, somebody who serves is a creator of value, and that is a very dignified position. So when you saw that the title of my book is Uplifting Service, I'm not just saying give the customer a better experience. I'm not just saying feel better as a service provider. I'm uplifting the entire idea of human beings being in service to other human beings. Now, in my original definition, I said someone you care about. And in this pandemic era, the phenomenon of human care has surfaced dramatically. What do we mean by care? Many times people will say, oh, care is, I care about you. And yeah, you really, I'm thinking of you and I really feel for you. But in the field of CX as practitioners, it's not just that. It's not just concern, it's commitment. It's genuine commitment to contribute to someone's well-being. Care is concern and commitment to someone's well-being. But how do you act on that? How do you demonstrate your commitment? You take action. That's called service. So you can see why I link these together. Now, some of you, especially the native German speakers, will know that the origin of the word care is a German word karu, which means to grieve. Now, there's also a Norwegian word, and I'm probably going to mispronounce it with a European audience, which is dangerous. It is kor, which means sick bed. So the origin of the word care is actually grieving for someone on a sick bed. What is that? Well, way back when those words were invented, if you were old or ill or wounded, you were probably going to die. And so to care about you meant to worry and to grieve. But today, that's not what we talk about. When we say, I care about you, I want to take good care, let me express my concern and care for you as a customer, as a client, as an employee, as a community where our customers live or where our labor force comes from, to care is to encourage, enable, educate, and empower the future. Which is why I say that the focus of CX today is not just about create more value, it's about taking care of people's well-being. Customers and clients, taking care of people's well-being, colleagues and partners, commitment to the well-being of the communities where our customers and I employees actually live, commitment to the well-being of the world and future generations. We know that the world has got to change. Humanity's got to change right now in this era of ecological crisis and income inequality. And in the midst of all that, you've also got to take good care of yourself and demonstrate self-service by taking action to create value for you. Okay, the future of service is care. And that's a nice way to present it, and it gets people thinking, and they realize, holy gosh, I was thinking service was just frontline, somebody in a contact center, a waiter in a restaurant. Ron is showing me now that this whole world of service and care involves all of us, and not just for today, like in a transaction, but ongoing into the future. So let's use that to look at the evolution of this field of customer service. Now, I've been involved in it for more than 3 decades. And because of that, as a thinker, as a writer, as a practitioner, I've been able to make certain contributions, which is, okay, the recognition is there, and thank you very much. But I want to show you how the field itself has evolved. When I was young, if you took something to the service center, it's because that thing broke. Your lawnmower broke, your washing machine broke, you needed spare parts, you needed someone to do troubleshooting on the toaster or any other appliance, and it was literally called the service center, remember? Yeah, well, then the field evolved, and people started focusing really vigorously on this idea of CSAT. Motorola and IBM for decades, CSAT. We want to satisfy our customer. But there was a reason for that at the time that made sense, which was that a satisfied customer would be a loyal customer. Today, that's no longer true. There's too much commoditization. There's too much competition. There's too much globalization. You could be fully satisfied, but it doesn't mean that you're going to be loyal. So the field evolved again. We said we don't just want to satisfy customers, let's delight the customers. Let's create moments of magic and amaze people and exceed expectations. Well, that was fine, but it was too ad hoc. It was too inconsistent. So the field evolved again to where the name of your organization is, which is, look, we're concerned about the overall end-to-end whole life cycle customer experience. Let's look at every aspect of the journey across omni channels at each touch point and reduce the customer effort and improve the overall experience. Great. But then came social media, and we realized we don't just want a great experience, we want customers who demonstrate their loyalty to us. We want brand ambassadors. We want people who are going to give us high 9 and 10 ratings on Net Promoter Scores. We want them to defend us in social media and give us the 5-star reviews and the thumbs up and the likes and the clicks. And the field is evolving still. And what I'm saying to all my clients now and to you is that the future of customer experience and customer service is actually authentic commitment to care, where your client, your customer, your employee, your colleagues say, I get that you're genuinely committed to my well-being, and the way you take care of me means I also want to take care of your well-being. And we become authentic partners for the future. Now, let's be honest, this can require a substantial transformation in an existing client organization or inside your own organization if you're a practitioner within a particular company today. So there's a white paper that I wrote with another professor, and it's been cited in Harvard Business Review, and I'm going to put a link so that you can get this in the chat right now. Just go to ronkaufman.com white paper or use the QR code. And what this talks about is how do you get a large, complex, geographically diversified organization to transform over time. And this white paper is packed with case studies and with real data. Now, the word engineering was chosen on purpose because often when people hear the word culture, they think, oh, that's the soft side of business. And when they hear the word service, they say, oh, that's soft too. So you end up with soft and fluffy, and I'm going, no. This is engineering. This is actually having a fundamental plan that you can execute. You need an architecture. So I go back to a European example. The reason that the Parthenon was created in Athens wasn't just because they wanted to make a nice building. They wanted to shape the behavior of people who stepped into that building. In other words, there was a level of social invention. There was a level of governance. There was a level of market behavior. There was a level of cultural creation that went on inside that building that was not going on in the village. It was not going on down at the fishing port. So they knew that by creating an environment, they could literally inspire and uplift and call upon the best of their own people. So I adopted the same framework as a way of being able to show organizations what they need to build. Now, this framework has 3 fundamental elements, and I've chosen just a few pieces of each because in our short time, I can't show you everything, but in the book, you'll find a whole lot more. We're going to start with the foundation. The foundation of this house is teaching people about service what they did not learn in school. We've got people coming out of universities and high schools and colleges and polys today saying, I've got my diploma, I've got my certificate, I've got my degree, and now give me a job. But if you ask them, explain to me what is a customer. Explain to me what it means to be in service to somebody else. Explain to me how the action you take is going to create more new or added value for someone. They didn't learn that in school. So we're going to have to take responsibility for bringing that into the learning and development within organizations. At the roof, we have the leadership behaviors. In the middle, we've got what we call the service culture building blocks. Now I'll talk about each of those in turn. Let's start with the foundation. We need a way of talking about the service that someone receives, not the steps in the process and the procedure that the service provider does. So a service provider may say, I followed the process and I hit the service level agreement. But neither of those two phrases actually describes the experience from the recipient's point of view. So I invented a framework to help us look at that. If the client's experience is really terrible, like they say you were awful, you didn't keep your promise, the experience of being served by you was one of the worst I've ever had, I call that criminal, below even the bare minimum. And there's a way of saying it where you put your hands together like this, like handcuffs, and go, criminal. If you take one step up, it's serving someone in a way where they get the minimum that they need, but the experience is not good. So for example, you deliver, but you're late. You complete the project, but you were not fully complete. They had to chase you. Right, that piece, and you had to add the final piece. Or you did what you needed to do, but you weren't polite. And that can happen face to face, on the phone, or even in writing. We call that basic. One level up is standard. One level up is average. One level up is doing what is expected. And you may remember when we used to say that the way you satisfy a customer is by meeting customer expectations. And that phrase was alive at the same time that people said a satisfied customer is a loyal customer. That went out of date. And that is why the word expected is in the bottom half of the 6 levels. So let's take another step up. When you serve someone the way they like it, that's called desired. I give you an example. Some of your customers will say, I want to understand everything. Tell me all the options. Tell me what the differences are. Teach me everything there is to know before I make a decision. The very next customer could come along and say, listen, I don't have a lot of time. Just tell me what you think is best. And if you serve the first customer the second way, or the second customer the first way, even though you're helping them buy exactly the same thing, you're not giving them what they desire, which means you've got to be understanding more of your customer or your client so you understand how they would like to be served. The level above desired is when you do something unexpected and it's received like a gift. Oh, what a nice surprise. And above that level is the astonishing, extraordinary, incredible, I actually call it unbelievable. Now, you know the title of my book is called Uplifting Service. Let me ask you, where is uplifting service on the 6 levels of service? It's not one of the 6 words. Where would you put it? Well, before you try to answer, let me explain something fundamental about the 6 levels. They're not stable. They're not steady. They're not fixed. They're not steps. They're not stairs. This thing is an escalator. It's in motion and it's always going down. And the reason I say that is if you do something for one of your clients unbelievable, it will be the first time you do it. If you do it a second time, it's not unbelievable anymore because you did it before. It might be a nice surprise that you did it again. By the 3rd time, you're now starting to teach your customer that you can serve them the way they like it, desired. Then it becomes expected, then it's only basic, and then one day, if you don't do it, criminal. I'll show you some examples of how fast the stairs are slipping down. When this first came out, we were all amazed. It was unbelievable that you could make a phone call without a wire. Today, basic. There was a time when you could have all the knowledge of the world on your bookcase and you were really proud of it. Today, it's at your fingertips and it's updated constantly. There was a time when getting beautiful color in a photograph was so romantic that Paul Simon wrote a song, Kodachrome. Nobody's writing a song today. Megapixels. Even the phenomenon of delivery of whatever it is purchased, that's going to transform to having drone delivery that lands in the front yard, the backyard, or on your balcony. So then where is uplifting on the 6 levels? Well, uplifting service is not a position. It's not fixed. It's actually moving from one level to another. So uplifting means always improving. Uplifting means taking the next step up. Now, let me show you how this could apply to you. As a CX practitioner, where would you locate yourself today on the 6 levels of service? And some of you might say, well, I'm actually a beginner and I'm joining because I want to learn about the field. Great. You're right at the level of basic, and maybe you're stepping up to expect it. You're going to get certified. You're going to attend webinars. You're going to learn. Some of you may say, no, I'm an experienced practitioner. I know how the tools work. I can go into a client organization, or I'm doing it already inside my own organization. I'm at the desired level. And some of you might say, you know what? I'm actually leading in the field. I'm an innovator on the field. I'm creating things in the field, or I'm applying CX tools to areas where they're not normally applied. For example, we just finished speaking with a major global company that comes from a European base, and what they want to do is bring CX to the HR function so that every one of their 117,000 global employees gets a better EX because they brought CX to the employee side of the business. Here's another question. Where is your organization today on the 6 levels of service? Oh, that's not what you say. That's what would your customers say. Where do you think your client is today? And maybe you should bring them this framework so that they can think about it with you, and you can show them that the stairs are slipping down, and if you don't step up, by default, you're going to get lower, and help them figure out what's the next step. And I have one more question for you. This is ECXO, and it's a brand new CX organization. And if you're here, I hope you've actually signed up as a member. But what I'm asking you is, what is your behavior as a member? Tonight, you're an attendee. Good for you. Tomorrow, what could be the next step up for you in helping to make your new organization actually stronger? Are you going to volunteer? Are you going to tell somebody else about it? Are you going to contribute some ideas that could actually are you going to help the organization get better? Wherever you are today, the important question is, how can you step up and create more value? Now, when we use the word value, there's actually 4 categories. One category is the main reason people come to an organization for service. So let me use a medical system, for example, because we're all human. We've all got bodies. We all have a concern for healthcare. Let's say you go to the doctor. What's the primary product? You want accurate diagnosis and a form of treatment, right? You're going there so that they can figure out what's the situation, and they make a recommendation for treatment to you that will help you address whatever the issue is. That's the primary product. You know what? If the doctor or the hospital or the clinic does not get that right, you don't really care that much about everything else. That's why it's called primary. Every single organization has a primary product. Every department also has a primary reason why they exist. Now, there's also value that can be created or destroyed in the delivery system category. And that has to do with how easy, how speedy, how flexible, how user-friendly is it, for example, to make an appointment to see the doctor, or be reminded about when the appointment is, or how long do I have to wait once I actually get there, or how do I actually get the medications delivered to me? Do I have to go stand in line at the pharmacy, or will it automatically be sent to my home? Is there a way in which the delivery system associated with the prescribed medication, if there was some, does it automatically remind me on the app on my phone that it's time to take it? Or do I have to remember afterwards and oops, I might have forgotten 2 days in a row? Right? You can create value in a delivery system. You can also damage value in a delivery system when your website is hard to navigate, when the links don't actually work anymore, when somebody sends you a message by email or WhatsApp and you don't reply for 3 days, right? Different category of value. Now, the third category of value is the attitude and the mindset. And for most people in the world, this is the only category they think of when they hear the word service. They hear the word service and they think of a waiter in a restaurant. And they're not wrong. In other words, this is a real category of value. It's the smile. It's the eye contact. It's the body language. It's the tone of voice. It's saying please and thank you. It's using kind words in your email and putting a PS to say something complimentary to whomever you're saying it to, right? That's the attitudinal, but it's only one of the 4 categories. And the 4th category I call ongoing relationship. And that's the extent to which you're working with someone so they know that you're committed, not just to fulfill the current promise, but you're committed to their well-being into the future. You're not just there as a provider, you're actually interested in becoming and developing each other as partners. Now, the top two categories, you could call that the hardware of any business. And for many businesses, that's where the engineers focus. That's where the financial people focus. That's where the technology team focuses. But the bottom two categories is where so many companies can differentiate, because things that are happening in the first two categories, those things can be copied, and they are being copied, and they're being further developed very, very quickly. But in the bottom two categories is where you could also really stand out and create unexpected value. Of course, all four categories are important. How important? Well, it depends on where your organization is, or where your client organization is if you're a consultant or if you're a practitioner in that regard in the CX field. You could take the 6 levels of service and you could map them against each of the 4 categories and literally say, from our customer's point of view, not what you say, what they say, where would they rank you on the 6 levels in each of these 4 categories? Where are the stairs slipping down because your competition has stepped up and you haven't? Or because expectations of customers are rising quickly and you haven't yet kept up? Now, so far, I've shown you 2 of these fundamental principles that I created, but my God, there's 10 of them. And there's chapters for each one of them in the book. They're also written about as a collection, if you will, here in an ebook. I'm going to put the link to this in the chat so that it's easy for you. You can just simply download that and go ahead and read it. And you are welcome to share this with other people in your organization or in your clients. Let's keep moving. I said that the roof of the house is where leadership behavior belongs. And leaders provide, literally like a roof, protection for everything that's going on inside. They need to provide the direction that shows where is this thing going. And there are 7 fundamental behaviors. Tonight, we don't have time to go through all of them, but yes, there's a chapter in the book about this. But I do want to take a moment and zoom in on one of these rules of service leadership, the certain behaviors that wouldn't otherwise be easy for you to understand. I think that 6 out of these 7 are pretty obvious. You look at them and you go, yeah, I get what he's talking about. But what about number 4? When he says measure what really matters, what's he talking about? And what I'm saying is this: when you look at most commercial businesses, what they will automatically say really matters is top line revenue, bottom line profit, share of wallet, share of market, shareholder value, number of repeat customers. Okay, I got it. But these are all lagging indicators. In other words, these things can be measured only after you've delivered all the service. So then, how do you know you're going to get these objectives? What would be a leading indicator? That would be your scores. So if your satisfaction score, your loyalty score, your net promoter score, your employee engagement score, your customer effort score, if they're all going in the right direction, you're going to get the money. You're going to get the ultimate objective. Now, you don't necessarily do these surveys every day. So what would be a leading indicator that would let you know you're gonna get better scores? Well, that would be if you're getting a lot of positive feedback. If you're getting a lot of inbound compliments of people saying thank you, and that was wonderful, and that was more than I expected, and oh my gosh, I really appreciate, then you're gonna get the scores and you're gonna get the final outcomes. Now, here's the last piece. What is the necessary precursor in order to get a compliment? Not the leading indicator. What is it that needs to happen in order for someone to give you a compliment? Will someone compliment you for doing what they expected? No way. You've got to do something that's beyond the expected level, which means for many of the service providers in your organization or in your client's organization, you've got to help them have a new insight, a new way of looking at what they're doing, so that they come up with new ideas to make the customer experience better, so that they can choose which ideas are good ideas and put them into action. That's what I call a stepping up service improvement. Now, here's the problem. Which of these four do people in leadership positions often spend a lot of time looking at and talking about? Right. But where can every single person in the organization, from the front line, supervisor, manager, leader, internal service, external service, where could they do something every day? Right. But do leaders measure this? How many organizations or departments that you know that actually track how many new ideas have we come up with this month to improve customer experience? If you have an internal relationship between two departments, when was the last time those two departments came together and rather than arguing with and blaming each other, they came together to generate at least, let's say, 20 new ideas in a 2-hour meeting? Now, if you don't say we're looking for 20 ideas, they're going to just keep going round and around with a few. But if a leader says, I want 20 from this group in the next 2 hours, then you've given them a challenge. Now, not every idea is a good idea, and that's why you wanted 20. So you could then look at them and throw out 10. So you can look at the 10 and pick 5. So you can look at the 5 and really make them even better and choose and act on 2 or 3. And if you do that, you'll get everything else that's in this list. The last section I want to talk to you about is what's called the service culture building blocks. These are the activities that literally create that environment in which employees come to work every day. This is where they actually have the experience of, if you will, the culture of the organization. And I'm just going to touch on the first two. When we say common service language, we're saying take the principles that I just showed you and make them so familiar to people that they start using that language. And so they've been already translated into 15 different languages, and this is just one example. Or physically put it in the environment. So when people come to work, they're reminded of it every single day and they use it in their conversations about service, customers, and colleagues. Or take it and translate it so that it has meaning for the industry. And you can see here how a technology company has actually taken the same terminology, but then they've translated it into a world that a technologist will understand. Or, like this European bank did, you can literally take any particular situation, a particular form of service, and actually go right into it and use the 6 levels and explain exactly what kind of experience it is that we want to create. Of course, you can also make it fun. You can create job aids. You can put it in the environment. You can put stickers on the wall. You can create all kinds of things to do what? Create a common service language. Not a language of marketing, language of HR, language of finance, language of production, language of sales. They have their own languages. What you need to create is a common language about service throughout the organization. And the one other building block I want to touch on, because it also lives in language, is having what I call an engaging service vision. An engaging service vision. I don't care if you call it your mission. I don't care if you call it your principles, your values, your credo, your purpose. I don't care. What I care is it engaging? Does it grab your people? Does it have them go, I understand it and I want to do it? For example, at Singapore Airlines, service even other airlines talk about. Do you know how proud the employees are every single time they hear that? Do you realize what kind of a standard it sets for the service that they're going to provide and how much it attracts other people who want to work there? The Ritz-Carlton calls theirs a credo. We are ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. Hey folks, this saves them millions of dollars every year on recruitment. You know why? It automatically attracts people who want to work in an elegant, refined, sophisticated environment, and it automatically keeps away the people who are more hard charging and should really be at a different hospitality brand. This is a global operating theater equipment sterilization company. So if you go into an emergency room, these guys keep that equipment sterile. If you go into a labor or a maternity ward, that's what, if you're going into a cardiac surgery environment, and you know what? Those environments are different. And so they literally said, what we're committed to is achieving one-of-a-kind service for each and every one of our customers. And the whole company is dedicated to that. Xerox, they took our 6 levels and simply said, our thing is better than expected. And this is my favorite European example. It came from Nokia, Siemens, Networks in an era when there was a joint venture between these two European companies. And Nokia, the people from Finland, they're so proud of their software. They're so proud of being Finnish. And then you've got Siemens, and they're so proud of their hardware, and they're so proud of being Siemens. And so they literally were going to go to market with $1 million campaign called Know-How. And I spoke with the CEO and I said, Mr. Suri, with all due respect, your customers care that you know, but that's not what they want. They don't want you to just know. They want you to do something with the know-how for them. And so we added this, and it became Know-How, Act Now. But remember, what is the purpose of the action? It's to create value. Who's it to create value for? The customer in this case. And so we were sitting in Noida, India with the global service team, and Ula, who's on this call, was actually there. And we're trying to figure out, what are we missing? What are we missing? And then this big German man said, wait, I know. We said, what? He said, Know-How, Act Now, Create Wow. 6 words. Now lives as an incredibly powerful and engaging vision of continuously uplifting service. And I'll just show you one more. Look at this. Our world is serving yours. Can you imagine what it would feel like to be an employee who works in this company called Schreiber, where you come to work every day and every single person is literally saying, our world, our purpose of our world is serving yours. Do you know what Schreiber makes? Cheese. If a cheese manufacturer can have an engaging service like this, what's yours? Now, I've been known for years as a guy in the world of service, and I love it. I love my job. I love the field. It's all about doing things for other people. But as I said, the world has changed. And so when you look at our website or you see the branding on things that come out now on YouTube and on LinkedIn, it's not just serve, it's a serve care. And I'm not going to stop there. I'm still young enough to have decades in front of me, but in the years and years and years ahead, it may not just be serve care. Like, why do humans care? Because there's some other reason going on here, folks. And the privilege of being able to do this kind of webinar is not just because I want to serve you, not just because I care about Ricardo and all of you at ECXO, but actually because I love the fact that you are who you are. And you're committed to being who you are and doing what you're doing in the world. And I hope that the time together makes at least a small contribution that you value and that contributes to your well-being so that you can contribute to others. Mwah. Thank you. Over to you, folks. Ricardo?
Hi.
Michael?
It's amazing. I really loved your talk. And now, Michael, thank you so much, Ron and Jean, for coming here. Michael, can you go over the questions? I think you have some there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd like to thank everybody who put questions in. There are a lot of them. I'm not sure we're going to get through them all, but we'll certainly.
We're definitely not going to get through them all. I can see them.
No,
all.
I know there are a lot of them. I know. But thanks for everybody for participating anyway. So Alan asked a question. And we often hear, the thing, we have to wow our customers. So Alan asks, where does the role of wowing customers sit in the CX world? Is it a credible aim or a hostage to fortune?
I'm not sure what a hostage to fortune means, but I can answer the first question, like, where does wow fit in? And it really depends upon what is the industry that you're in, what is the customer that you're serving, what is it that they value. So let me give you an example. Let's say you're in the business of aircraft engine maintenance. And so every time an aircraft lands, your company's job is to go in and make sure that the engines are properly maintained for the next flight. Do you think that the aircraft engineers from the client company, being the airline, that they want you to wow them with your maintenance at every stop? Heck no. They want you to do exactly what it is that you committed and promised to do. However, if in the analysis of the data of the ongoing aircraft engine repair over time, you start to have insights about how that airline might be able to optimize, or how they might be able to streamline or get more efficiency or more productivity out of their use of equipment, and you share that with the client organization, then you are producing a wow. But notice that those would be two completely different contact points. Both of them are service. One is at the point of actual delivery of the technical skill, in which case, please don't wow me. Just do exactly what it is that I needed. That's why I hired you. But on the other hand, there may be a place for wow as well.
Great. Thanks a lot. Tulio asks, one of the biggest challenges today is connecting with each other. Empathy is understanding what the other says, thinks, does, and feels. How can one do that from a consumer experience perspective?
The best answer I've got for that is ask and listen. And you're not asking for data. You're asking to hear the tone of voice. You're asking a question like I could do with you right now, Michael. Tell me, Michael, do you have children?
Yeah, I do. 2 older boys. Yeah.
How old are they?
30 and 32.
Oh, that's older.
Yeah.
Okay. Ricardo, you got kids?
Yeah.
How old?
35.
35?
We're
a bunch of old age pensioners.
Never mind that
here.
example. Okay. So for example, you ask somebody, tell me what it is that you value. Or you're like, why are you here? Why did you come to us in the first place? And you're not saying, what is it you want to buy? You're not saying, what is your budget? You're not saying, when do you need this delivered by? You're literally asking for, what is it you want to achieve? What is it you want to accomplish? Help me understand your priorities. What is it you want to avoid? What risk do you want to be sure that doesn't show up? So now you're asking questions that reveal a very different level of feeling. Now, ultimately, then later on, you'll get to the product specifications and the price point and the delivery schedule. But too many people still think that if I get the price point and I get the product listing and I get the delivery schedule and I fulfill what I promised, I'm going to have a great customer experience. No. The answer to Tulio's empathy question is all about tone and feeling, not about specifics and prices and products.
Right. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
So now we have an interesting one from Gitana, because we are, there are often people going around saying, you've got to fix the employee experience before you fix the customer experience. So Gitana asks, is there a difference?
By the way, that's HR people who usually say that.
Okay. Is there a difference between serving customers and internal customers, for instance, company employees?
Yeah. There is one fundamental difference. I mean, there's a lot of the tools will apply. The tools will apply to both, but the fundamental difference is this: with customers, external customers, paying clients, they have the option to go somewhere else. Okay, I'm taking government service out of this because, for example, if you're a citizen of a country, you don't have the option to go to a different police department, okay. We'll come back to that in a second. But if the customer has choice, then you literally have a customer, okay? On the other hand, if it's internal and you and I are going to be colleagues, we're going to be between team members, mutual employees, whatever, and let's say it's between finance and sales department, or it's between HR and some other department, yeah? If service is taking action to create value, then let's say you're the HR department and you want to take some better action to create more value for the employees. But I have a question. Is there action that an employee could also take that would create value for the HR department? Michael?
Right.
Got it? I mean, so in other words, then either party could take action that would create value. So for example, there's always a big one between finance and sales, where finance complains about the salespeople not submitting everything with all the receipts, and the salespeople complain about the finance people who have too many rules and regulations. And they go like this with each other, yeah? But let me ask you, if you ask the finance people, are there things that sales could do that would make it better and easier for us? Yes. Are there things that finance could do that would make it better and easier for us? Yes. So both parties could take action to create value that would make well, now it's not customer service, is it? It's a service partnership. And so the big difference is that any internal service is actually a form of service partnership.
Right.
Now let's go to that government issue. If you ask people who are public service, civil service, government service, and they think about their citizens or their residents or their employers or their visitors, right? They actually want a partnership with them. They want responsibility and action to live in the community because it allows for easier implementation of policy, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not customer of the government, it's a partner with the government. Clear? Now, you might want to build that with your customers, but they have the choice to walk away.
Right.
And so in that regard, there is that particular fundamental structural difference between the two.
Okay, thanks a lot. Great answer. We see a lot of stuff also online about, there's an argument that there's a constant argument in the CX industry about KPIs. You know, is it NPS? Is it CSAT? Is it customer effort score?
Right.
But here, Matthias asks, you know, how do you track performance improvements of uplifted services? Are there KPIs that you recommend?
Very good. So first I want to answer the question, how do you track performance of an uplifting service culture? Because if the culture of the organization is doing this, that's going to produce the innovations that then result in and what Matthias is asking is he's looking for a lagging indicator. Like, how do you know that it actually did better? Okay. And I'll answer that. But first, Matthias, let me talk about, you know, how do you know that your culture of continuous service improvement is actually getting better? And what you need to look at then is the leading indicator of number of new ideas and number of new actions taken. And that's counterintuitive for leaders because they say, if I'm going to invest and improve CX, I want to see the result. And you can't jump on that right away when you're trying to produce a cultural transformation. First, you've got to generate the engine that's going to drive that. And so literally start counting how many new ideas did we come up with? And you put people in workshops and you give them education like some of the things that I've shown tonight, or give them copies of the book, or use the reader's guide of the book and get people in the dialogue so they start generating. And that's your leading indicator KPI. When those KPIs are going up, then you can ask the question that Matthias is asking is, how do I actually know if it made a difference? And the reality is it depends on the nature of the service. So, and the customer situation, because in some cases you'll measure it based on, for example, number of banking products that a single client purchases from the same organization, share of wallet. In other cases, it may be the percentage of our customers who not only do they renew, but they renew for longer term agreements rather than rolling it over month to month. In another situation, it could literally be reduction in the number of complaints that we've been getting. In another, it could be tracked through something like a TripAdvisor score, or number of positive comments on a Yelp or an Amazon customer review situation. So it really depends on what is it we're looking to improve, and then what are the metrics that you can track to be able to see the prior state and then the post state after the improvements.
And that's a very common question as when we are presenting or trying to create a new program, a CX program. That's a C-suite often question, what are you going to win from that? That's and you have to convince them in that way.
And so there's really, there's three answers. One I gave you in terms of number of ideas. Are your people being creative and innovative and stepping up? If they're not, never mind the rest of it. Number two is, what are your lagging indicators going to be? But number three is, remember that every internal process has a KPI. Right. And too often you'll get people inside the organization saying, we have our KPIs and we hit our KPIs, but they're internal KPIs. Like, we did what our process says we should do. Those aren't the KPIs that count.
Right.
I mean, They do. I'm not saying they don't count, but they aren't the ones that ultimately those leaders are looking for.
Right. Okay. Digital is a big thing nowadays. So Farhan asks, what role does digital play in the CX staircase? Are organizations able to find the right balance between DX and CX?
Okay. So let me first answer that in a little bit more general way. Like, you got humans and you got technology. Where are humans going to fit in this world of continuously improving AI and machine learning and bots, et cetera, et cetera? And first, let's remember that whatever it is that a human customer interacts with was designed by other humans. Mm-hmm. So sometimes when you see like a very confusing user interface, somebody designed that. And there was a classic example about 15 years ago when the Singapore is very productivity and efficiency oriented. And so they adopted what was called the 3-click rule, which said that if you come to a government website looking for something, everybody should be able to get to whatever they want within 3 clicks. Okay? What that produced was a page that had so many options on it, which after you clicked on the right one, took you to another page with so many options on it that after you clicked on the right one, you got to the page with so many options on it that if you clicked on the right one, you got what you wanted. The problem is the customer was thoroughly confused at the first, second, and third page. And so what they didn't do was understand that humans actually don't mind clicking as long as they get the feeling that they're making progress. And so at the same time, our daughter was very, very young, and she was playing an online game, and it said, hello, are you a boy or a girl? Girl. What is your name? Brighten. Hello, Brighton. Is this your first time or you want, and like literally she's going click, 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 click. No confusion at all. Absolutely delighted. And it was hard for us to get her away from it. Okay, so number one, design by humans for humans. Number two, we're still alive in an era of digital immigration. The three of us obviously will remember what this means. Nobody under 20 years old has any idea what I'm talking about. Right? Because they're carrying their phone in their pocket and always have been. No rotary dial for them. So when you've got people being migrated into a digital environment, that's a good time to put humans there for those who could use the extra emotional encouragement and support. Let's say you want to get somebody who does banking, a high net worth customer, you want to get them out of the branch and onto the device and onto the app. Well, don't just send them instructions and say it's a wonderful app. Have somebody sit down with them. Bring them a cup of tea. Sit down and talk about their kids. Show them, encourage them, and get them migrated. And then they won't come back the next time because they'll be able to do it themselves. And the third and final time, Michael, is anytime something goes wrong. And so a good example in that difference between CX and DX is in the Japanese subway system. So you can imagine the Japanese subway system is these huge electronic panels where you go and you press for your tickets and where you're going and you can swipe and do this and that. And, it's all digital, etc. But if you do the same, if you do three things wrong in a row, like if you did it, but then you go back, or and you click on the wrong one, and but when you do the third one of those huge panels literally slides to the side and a human being leans out. Because right behind the panels is where the control room is. And they can see from the AI everything that's going on. And they'll know that at one of these panels, somebody just hit that 3 error mark and lean over and slide back there and be able to actually show the person how to do it correctly because they know what they were trying to do. And then say, thanks very much, and then they're gone. So at the moment something goes wrong is not the time to have a bot try to answer it. That's the time to have a human being show up enabled by the DX so that the customer experience is great.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Thanks. I think actually for questions, we're out of time now.
Yeah, depends on, we have some other questions, but depends on Ron. Ron, I think it's very late there, or
Let's take one more, 2 more, go ahead.
Okay, so Susanna asks the impact correlation between customer experience and employee satisfaction.
What motivates employees is when, what motivates a human being, is when like Ricardo reached out and said, would you come speak to us? And I was flattered. He wants me to speak, right? So he made me feel good. So I was sure, let me speak. Right? And then creating value in both directions. So if you get customers who are pleased with you, then they're going to either say nice things or do nice things, or at least be easier for you to serve because they're in a better mood. And so then when you go home at night, let's face it, customer service is a wear and tear environment. Not everybody's always in a good mood. So then you get that one moment when somebody is pleased with what you did and you feel better. Now imagine if the organization was consistently producing customers who were happy with the experience that they were having. Then what would it be like to work there? And then what happens is you naturally attract the good people because that's going to keep making it happen and they're going to enjoy it. And the ones, by the way, who are working there who are not producing customer experience like that, those are the ones who are going to gradually end up drifting away or be told to leave because they're not in alignment with the culture of the organization.
Okay, thanks. The last question, and that is actually, it's a question which is actually what ECXO is all about. And that is, how do you manage the different cultures in the customer experience. I mean, globally, so many different cultures, so many different ways of looking at things.
Right.
How do you manage that?
Very good. And I'm going to couple that with a question that was asked by anonymous attendee that says, desire, giving customers, everybody what they desire can eat into margins and be costly. So how do you prioritize? Let's put these two together, okay? So if service is taking action to create value, what do you call action taken by a service provider that the customer does not value? It's called waste. Now, in a manufacturing environment, they know that. If it's not needed in the next process, it's called waste. What we're learning is, wait a minute. If I serve every customer the same way, and some customers don't appreciate that, then the action that we took there was actually wasted. So then we could actually do less, but delight more if we actually calibrate what we're doing for that particular customer. Now, it also applies when you talk about customer segmentation. In other words, if you try to wow every customer, but that may be totally inappropriate for the person who's bought the economy version. So then what do you do with the economy class person? Well, that person bought the budget version of whatever you sell because what they value is a certain value for their money. So then what is it that they expect? Yeah, you want to deliver that and that little bit more. But that and the little bit more, that doesn't come close to what the premium customer was expecting. So you'd go out of business if you try to give everybody what the premium customer is going to get. But that's pure market segmentation. So you get my point, right? You don't try to wow everybody. You don't try to do, oh my God, the level you want to hit with everybody is the desired level. Serve people the way they would like to be served, not just the way your process would deliver on expectations. If you have an opportunity to surprise or do something unbelievable, go for it. And if that's the nature of your business to be surprising, then that needs to be your standard. But I would wager almost everybody on this call, the appropriate standard is desired. But be careful, because what was desired is going to become
expectation.
Exactly. And so you've got to keep stepping up.
Thank you so much for this amazing presentation, amazing answers. Because no words here. I really love it, and I'm sure that the people would be clapping if you could hear them. So I clap for you here.
But here's what they can do, and I would really appreciate before anybody leaves or as you're leaving, if you would be so kind to type a note into the chat. Because that's exactly the example that correlates with what Michael asked. Like, what's the relationship between CX and EX? I'm your employee tonight, right? I'm here serving. And so when you type something in and I read it, go, oh, that's great. That gives me the fuel that makes me want to do more for other people.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ron. Before I let you go to sleep, as I assume it is very late now, I think it's almost 10 there. I have a question for you. Can you share with us where the people can find you? We'll put also in your graphical designs for you. We have your website, but do you have any preference where the people can find you and touch base with you and companies?
You can go to ronkaufman.com. That's the base, and then there's a contact form there. You can find me on LinkedIn. If you say I don't want you to know my email address, okay, fine, go to YouTube. Right, there's 300 videos there and lots of views and lots more you can learn about and use and share with other people.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Okay, from our side here, from the ECXO, from the ambassadors, for every member here. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For Jean as well for staying so late. Have a great evening there. And this was really no words. I don't have even words to say, but really, really great presentation. Thanks so much.
All right, friends.
Bye-bye. Have a good night.
Thanks. And thanks, of course, to everybody who joined also. Thanks
and
for joining us.
And a huge thank you to my wife, Jen, who's the backup, who doesn't get the shining light, but I wouldn't be here if she wasn't over there. So thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jen, as well. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Thanks a lot. Have a great evening.
Send us the chat log, Ricardo. I'll read them tomorrow morning over coffee.
All right. Thank you so much.
Cheers. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.